There we go. That should be a little bit better. Long time no see. Thanks, bro. I'm just putting the link up for you guys. So everybody has a fresh link. Everybody knows what's going on. Okay. Let's go to... All right, let's see if we can hold this line. Later on today, we're going to announce the new campaign that we have with LBank. You have the opportunity to win a whole bunch of different prizes, from a Rolex to an iPhone to a Nintendo Switch. If you don't want the prizes, you could always exchange those for cash value, but it's going to be an exclusive campaign for the Liquidity Citadel. So if you're new to this channel, new to follow me along, the Discord is inside of the description. If the link doesn't work, I'm going to go ahead and post it inside of the chat for everybody, so that way they have access to it. And there it is. And I'll pin that there for us. Tough area. Tough area. Let's look at some lower time frames here. See what's we got going on, what we got developing here. You got a 13 here as well too, with a change of character. A breaker structure, okay, change of character, and okay, I see it there. Okay. Let's put some more screen real estate on here for us. I can manage from my side too. Yeah, we've retraced 91.4. Basically, 91% we've retraced of this move. We got a couple breaker structures down here as well too. You know what? I just want this to appear on daily. I really don't want that to appear here. So let's go ahead and change that real quick. Yeah. What's the next level that would be really, I mean, it would sweep this area. This would become trendline liquidity here inside of this area. You saw it on a daily, but that's kind of like what it looks like here on lower time frames. Sweeping that right there. Becoming trendline liquidity. So if you see an aggressive move to the downside, that's really where it's coming from. You have institutional money, whales, money man, whatever you want to label them. They're actually shorting that, supposed support level. So that's why you would see a massive move down to the downside. And the next level that I have is basically would be a double bottom from where that move began, which is 1943.62, right over here. We can still get a pattern out of that. I mean, essentially you'd have a Navarro and you still have a bat. Actually, you'd have a total pattern, excuse me. You'd have a total pattern. So right now it's just looking for the wave D, where wave D is going to complete. All these levels will still remain the same for me in my books, especially wave B, wave C, and then, adding a little bit of hoping in here if we can actually climb into these zones at some point. But if we do climb into those levels, into those zones, then that's going to be a confirmation for us that wave A on the monthly has completed. If you guys recall, we were looking at this monthly, right? This being wave A, and then we're looking for wave B to mature, somewhere around in these levels. We didn't even scratch the 0.236 level. We didn't even tap into that. Now, if we retrace deeper than, the 1744 level, then wave A wasn't done. That's really what that points towards, and that's what that's going to allude to. But you can see we have all this open space from, 1960 down to 1744. It's a pretty wide range when you're looking at it from a monthly perspective. So it's really about just coming down to these lower time frames and trying to peg the time frame, the support level that it's going to be bouncing from. But yeah, this is more long term that I'm viewing for ETH. Getting into some of these levels, maybe July, maybe getting into September, somewhere in that area, and then we just start dropping. But that, this is months and months and months ahead. So the main goal here is looking for positions that we can get into for the day, maybe even an over the weekend type of hold, if the powers that be allow it to work in our favor. Then looking at some of these key levels. These are all the levels that you should be marking out, setting some alarms for as we approach those levels. Wave B is crucially important because you can see all the resistance here in this area. I did short it last night into London, but then I'd closed it. I was just like, I don't feel like babysitting it through the night. So I had closed mine relatively right around... my close was right on this wick, which was like 2019. And then I was looking for a little bit lower, like 1998 in that area, which we got, but no bueno. Yeah, it is. It's that season for ETH, man. I mean, we look at long term, ETH has been in this compression phase for like 4+ years. Obviously warranting the push down. It's going to create this boring phase, which some people would consider capitulation. People just don't want to touch it. But I think that, in my opinion, that's the, that's the signal. When nobody wants it, or when everyone's shorting it or whatever. When max fear is at its highest, these are the levels that we want to start looking at potentially buying. Risk management is going to be the most important thing in any of this. I was just sharing this with one of the guys that's at the server. To be profitable in this market, you got to have good risk management. I'll be honest with you. Your entry is irrelevant, meaning because you can get a pico bottom or a pico top and we've seen both sides get taken out. You can see that clearly here on a 4-hour, right? Caught a bottom. Let's just say you just caught something over here, or maybe somewhere over here. Or like, all right, cool, we're gonna go higher. That was the bottom. We got a V shape, and then it starts coming back down. Then you get, get round tripped. And let's say you shorted here inside of this area, right? Then you get round tripped. Then it comes back down. Then you get round. Like both sides are getting round tripped inside of this rectangle. So not an easy market to trade, if you will. It's just not easy. That's why risk management has to be at the highest level. That's the true edge. You seeing this level saying, you know what, I'm good with the profits, I'll take it. If it goes higher, then I'll just find a new entry. And vice versa, right? Like let's say, I caught a bottom over here, I'm taking profits here. I came right back down, I basically round tripped it. Came right back up, broke at this area. Now we're kind of like flirting with this area again too. So that's a secret sauce, really, to be honest with you. Not indicators, not strategies, because market doesn't care about those right now. Market is really targeting those with loose risk management, holding on to losers or becoming greedy and holding on to positions expecting higher or expecting lower and not taking profits at reasonable areas. Survival of the fittest. That's how I look at it. Survival of the fittest. Yeah, that wave D looks like it wants a little bit more down. And if you are going to join the LBank campaign that we're going to be rolling out, I will preface this and say their bonuses based on trading volume are pretty spectacular. I'll say that. Yes, you'll find cheaper fees on Bitonix, which we do have partnership with them. So if you're mainly focused on cheaper fees, then that's probably going to be the avenue for you. But if you if you do a lot of volume, or you do a good amount of volume from a weekly basis, I'd say like north of 3 million per week, the bonuses are going to be pretty substantial. They have a 200% match campaign that they're doing. So, they'll match you up to 200% on whatever deposit that you do. So that's another bonus that you have access to. So it kind of offsets the fees in that regard, in my opinion. But to each its own, right? If you're doing a good amount of volume, or if you're trading on a regular basis, and you want to be rewarded for your efforts, win or lose, you still want to be rewarded for your efforts, that's going to be a good avenue for you. They do have VIP statuses as well that can be increased on those. So just a quick reminder for you guys. No more down, only up, up, up. Yeah. Solar has spoken. Speak it into existence, brother. Speak it into existence. I could see, everyone trying to short here in this area, and then it just flushes to 2005 and then just comes right back down. I could totally see that. we go. Put a little poll for you guys there. Some interactive stuff for you. Let me get some water real quick. Be right back. You guys let me know on that poll. You guys are bears and want lower. Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. Can actually almost even extend this out. And still get a bat that way too. Did I print anything over here? I'm just curious. Nothing that's worth mentioning. All right, let's flip that over. That was that Max Gartley. No, that was a total. There was a Max Gartley over here. Mind you, I'm on a 21 minute. Let's go to 450. And there's another Gartley over here. Don't mind me. I'm just hunting for patterns, seeing if anything's printing from my indicator here. Yeah. I didn't reach that TP. Came close to it, but never reached it. You know, 1943 is still on the table for me. So, you know, let's say I get pushed out, that I'm still looking for re-entry. DC8 a bit. That's what's up. Yeah, I mean, if I can reclaim this area, 2005, you know, let's just make the assumption that we get something like, what's a good example? I'll use that as an example. Right? But I really want to see, I'm not focused on this. I mean, that would be fantastic, don't get me wrong. But whatever price action does, if price action can come above here and then start to reclaim this and then move higher, then I would look for add backs over here. You know, I mean, one of my students and I were discussing this pre-market. You know, we have some fair value gaps. I think it was on a 1 hour that we were looking at. Yeah. And then we had a shaved head on a 34. Was it a 34? Or was it a 15? think it's right here. You know what? I'm not even going to stress myself doing that. I'm just going to look for it this way. Oh snap, we don't have a shaved head there. Interesting, we have one here. Did that clear it? I want to say no. Because what was the high on this? 8.1, and what was this? Wait, what was this? 8.4? And that was 5.9. So this actually wasn't cleared. It got real close to it, but it wasn't cleared. It makes it look like it was, but it wasn't. And then we have another one that sits right over here. 2150. That's just on a 15-minute. Let's see if we can find anything on a 30. Yeah, we got one here on a 30. That's the one I think we were talking about. Yeah, that's the one that we were talking about earlier this morning. Because it was this move going to here. We had a shaved head that sits right over here. And same level over here. We can still see it even on higher time frames, or at least slightly higher time frames compared to what we were looking at. Let's go a little bit higher. Bro, how's that not a shaved head? That looks just like one. 10 cents differential. There's like barely any liquidity there. It's very thin there. Also, why not? Yeah, that could be the move. It could be the move. Or in a perfect world, you know. Because what did we say on daily? Because what did we target on daily? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's this area, which is what, 2025. And so let's go back to that. And let's play devil's advocate here. Is that a 9 that's lower? No, that's an 8 that's lower. And that's on a 55. That's good. So here's the 25. That's right over here. There's really nothing here. What is this? 2019. What is that? Nothing really. What's this? But that was already cleared. Okay, so let's go to the daily 2025. Let's assume we can hold here. And then retest this change of character over here. And then back down. I'm looking at these levels over here, looking at these. Yeah. How many times has this done this though? Look at this. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Right, especially right over here. Every pump it's had that's been, you know, substantial, if you will, you know, pushing out shorts, creating the narrative that we bottomed, what have you. It's retraced like 90% of the move. Pump, retrace, I think this was like 60%, 70% in this area. Actually, I won't even guess. I'm gonna go ahead and just measure it. Yeah, so 60% of it retraced. Let's look at the whole move. From here to here. That's 61% and some change. but from here. Yeah, it's already blown past that. I just know this level by memory already. That's the only reason why I knew that fib level. Yeah. So each one of these moves, let's do that. Actually went a little bit deeper. I'd argue that it actually went to 0.88. Yeah, went to 0.88. And then here we are, we got this 91%. Yeah, so like each one of these pumps, it retraced 61%, then it retraced 80%, now it retraced 90%. Just doing back testing right now. So that could curve up, and that kind of lines up with that green dot on the 1 hour. Got a little bit of curvature going on here. I don't have any divergence though. That's really what I was looking for. Maybe I got divergence on a lower time frame. Yeah, right here. But that's too low of a time frame. That's what I'm alluding to. Okay. What about 15 minutes? Same thing. 21 minute. Nothing there. Got green dots. Oh, there is divergence there. That's what's up. Okay, good. Okay. What about 55? I thought that was a burp. I thought that was a burp. Let's go 34. All right, cool. So that divergence looks decent. Let's hope this holds. Let's hope this sticks. Some new indicator that I just put together, just kind of measuring PO3s, things of that nature. It's going to pull in delta information as well too. So still back testing this. Some of you guys have access to my indicators. I'll put you onto it if you want. You can do your own back testing as well. But I haven't published it yet, so maybe I'll do that this weekend. But look at that. And that kind of lines out. Where's ADX? I guarantee if I look at ADX, let me make sure I look at the right time frames. 34, right? Let's look at 34. What is ADX doing? Ah, no, it doesn't. Okay. Okay, that doesn't line up with ADX. All right, let's see if we can climb out of the woods here. I need to adjust this because that definitely wasn't that. And where's my wave count? Are you over here? No, you're not. Where are you? Oh, I'm on the wrong chart. Oh, you're over here. There you are. You're on index. Okay. Check this out real quick. Ugh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all either. I don't look good. Not on 1362, I don't. You got short-term relief. It's probably going to be a scalp for us. Good news, though. We do have a 9 failure over here. That's kind of feels good. And you have a 1 on the lead-up phase, too. That's decent. And did we already discuss the change of character on this? Why aren't you... Oh, you're appearing there, but you're not on my section 6. Okay, no problem. For me, this would be like perfect world, right? Like the perfect world setup. Like I would definitely look into shorting that if we got to these levels. Just based on like the diving board principles, it typically retraces, or excuse me, has a 71% chance that it's going to test the bottom of that board. Could it go higher? Yes, it could, but at least there's 71% that it can come into this level. You know, we got into, you know, let's just round up, let's say 2,800. We got into 2,800. That would feed well into the monthly narrative that we're kind of pointing towards over here in this area. That puts us right inside of this area. Inside this zone right here. For wave B. There's shorting there too. That's crazy. That feels like they're gonna flush. That just feels like they're gonna flush. This thing needs to take a massive break. We can't do anything with USDT doing where it is right now. So for trend exhaustion, I'm looking at the TD9 sequential. I have two scripts that I've written for those. One is with the heat map, and then one is it's more of a study, but it's this bar color one right here. So it starts to show me bar colors. You can see it over here. I have it printed here, right? So this red candle right here was showing us that this was running into exhaustion. And I believe on a 4 hour, yeah, 4 hours showing us signs of exhaustion. Right, because we got exhaustion over here, but we still pushed a little bit higher. So we could get the exact same thing. It's just, it's running into those points of exhaustion. So once we start running into exhaustion on USDT, whatever direction it is, then I start looking to start building my position, whether it be short or long. You know, so these are kind of like exhaustions right over here. These bright green candles, these bright green ones, these are exhaustions. So you can see that it was trying to push the price down, 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 ran to exhaustion, little flush right here, and then pulled right back up. Same thing over here, little tiny flush, then pulled up. Ran to exhaustion here inside of this area, but this was a 9 failure. I could already tell that it was a 9 failure. That's what warranted this additional extension right over here. This is a clean 9 inside of this area. It's a clean 9 running into some exhaustion inside that area. Now I just needed to take a nice long walk on a short pier. I'd be absolutely amazed if not USDT, if ETH went to 2,800 inside the month of March. I would be floored. That would be way ahead of schedule. Way ahead of schedule. I'm anticipating, 2,400 first. I think we can get to 2,400, maybe by late March, mid-March maybe, going into April. Have some retracement, a little bit of a cool down. And then looking at May and June, potentially getting to those 2,800s, and then I think we'll move sideways for a little while, and then we'll break down. Those are my thoughts. That's kind of what I'm looking at. 6 months of red, 6 weeks of red, I believe. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're actually in the 7th, so it just depends on how this month closes. I mean, we have a lot of time. We have 25 days left inside this month. But let's just look at weekly because we're already coming towards a week close. That could close as a hammer, which is just decent. It's inverted hammer. Doesn't have the highest of probabilities. It does give you a probability of reversal. I think it's something like 52%. So not the highest probabilities. But if we do close green, that'll be the first green that we've closed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In 6 weeks. 6 months of red, 6 weeks of red. One, two, three, four. Excuse me. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, typically, oh well, except for this time frame. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Jeez, 11 weeks of red there. I mean, this is straight 11 weeks of red. I mean, just even eyeballing it, right? Like, that looks like a perfect ABC. So if anything, we would see, you know, minute waves or minor waves. Let's just make an assumption there. Trace here. Let's see, that would be too high. It need to be a shorter impulse. So let's go to like 2300. Let's just say there. Somewhere around here. And then maybe like a double top or maybe like just a smidge higher. And then from there, you go. Sorry, excuse me. You could also look at that as like saying, well, maybe it forms like this massive flag, right? Because you have this right here. And maybe it doesn't need to get that high, but maybe it gets to there and then or a pennant. Doesn't have to be a flag, it can be a pennant too. I mean, you could do it that way, and that would make a lot of people cry. That's 3-digit ETH. You can go from here too to shorter wave. And that puts like 1300. Wait, did I do that right? Sorry, I don't think I did that right. Hold on. Yeah, I missed that. Yeah, still 1300s. Wherever the breakout's going to be, right? It could be here, it could be a little bit lower. And all the way through this, you would see, you know, little impulses and buildups, right? And then you get your down. If monthly closes, I mean, yeah, if this month closes at 2800, yeah, that would be an engulfing for sure. 73% reversal rate. So the next following month, let's just, you know, assume it's March. Let's say March did get to 2800. Yeah, it's an engulfing. Then you need the next month to confirm that. Engulfings have higher probabilities. Yes, they do. And it's always contingent on where they're located. Right? Because, you know, we had an engulfing right here. And then obviously a little bit of a slide down. Then you had another engulfing, so forth and so on. But then you had bearish engulfing, bearish engulfing, bearish engulfing. I don't know if that's bigger, but yeah, actually it is bigger. Bearish engulfing, bearish engulfing, bearish engulfing. So these are not even continuations. These are just reversal candles. But see, we had a bullish engulfing right here, inside of here. Then we hit a resistance, then drop, 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 drop. So, you know, just like anything else, they have probabilities. Just got to work with the probabilities. A nice break of structure there. 19. It's nice. I'm going to add to my long here. Because I'm looking at this breaker structure. That's what I'm looking for. I want a long breaker structures. $19.43 is the next level. Just as an FYI. Yeah, you see how I was talking about that trend line earlier? That's exactly what they did. They shorted on that line. Yeah, it hits everybody's entry. So are you out or you still in? I have a feeling you're out. I could be wrong. This stretch is a little bit lower. Still looking for wave D. So this became liquidity. And they curve right back down. Look at that. Inside of divergence. So like when I'm looking for, you know, snipe entries, if you will, for lack of better terminology, I'm looking for the breaker structure. I'm looking for the divergence. That's really what I'm hunting for. And the liquidity that was taking over here, you know, everyone that got pushed out or everyone that got stopped out, they don't want to long it again. They're going to wait. They're going to wait. Which I'm not saying that they're wrong for that. I'm just saying that that's kind of the narrative what Moneyman's going to do. does USDT do? Yeah, USDT is going to scrape the bottom of this right here. 8.0 something. I think that puts us at 1943. Which would be a double bottom from the last thrust that we saw from this thrust area. Right over here. Oh. Bears are relentless. Kind of a do or die area. They're going to hold that area. I mean, the bloodbath area is going to be this wave C, which is like 1800, the bottom of this area right over here. We just got to work with the levels that we have. That's really all it is. Just got to work with the levels. I think that's too steep for falling wedge, though. From there it is, maybe. Show you what I'm looking at. And I like to see, like, why did price action go to this level? Like, why did it stop? What's here in this area? So this is kind of like where the horizontal lines come into play for me. I'm gonna take this off. This is the area that, you know, it found support and pushed us all the way up into 21.95. I think I got a channel out of that though. What is that? 2030? Yeah, I'd have to break out of that. A, B, C, yeah, that's really deep for a C. Let's measure that out real quick. Into a 1968 and went deeper. So your next level is 1932. That is an intense wave C. You also look at it 1, 2, and then 3, and then 4, then you'll get your 5. Yeah, I'll look at it that way too. I'll look at it that way too. Hmm. 2032 is right where that daily is at, or we were talking about. So then where does that put 5? Sheesh. Well, I'm pretty sure wave 2 looked pretty flat. I could be wrong. Let me measure that real quick. I went to 618. So sharpish levels. Yeah, you can see that there. So that eliminates a 618. You can just go ahead and take that off. So that really leaves flat levels. And I'm going to put this on here because, yeah. And that just so happens to be that 2000 area that we were talking about. And got breaker structure, okay. Let's do some zones on here. It's a pretty wide zone. All right, how does that translate to the bat pattern? Huh. Yep. That lines up right with that. This empty space here. I don't think I'll reach here. So if I'm gonna hedge, I mean, I would love to see this, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen, because if I'm inside of a bearish count right here, then that's going to point towards here. Yeah, there's liquidity that sits inside that zone. I mean, I hope the bearish count is invalidated. Don't get me wrong. You know, it's not something I'm going to ignore. Yeah, intermediate. Especially if it stays within the confines of this channel that it formed. If it can break out of this channel, then, you know, still have bearish retest, still have these. I mean, shoot, it can even go all up to here, 0.76. Just shy of it. I'll do a 707. Yeah. And then that's, but that shouldn't be, because that would make it a greater wave. See, that gets us to there, which would line up just fine for a wave 5. Like, that's just classic wave 5 behavior. And measurements too, sorry. And actually you can extend this even further. Let's make a proper channel here. Let's do this the right way. I'm gonna take the bat off for a second. And let's just mark this off. What are we on? 34? What's today's date? The 6th? Or 7th? This is 6, right? Yeah, 6. I forgot to add 34-minute on there. Alright, let's get a proper channel on that. What is this? I don't need that right now. And what is this? Oh, I definitely need you. You need to go in here. I don't know what these are. I'm just gonna get rid of them. I don't even know what they are. I'll look for them later. What is this? Oh, you're my TPs? Ah, son of a gun. So you belong in here. Alright. Alright, don't need that. Don't need that. Okay. Look at this properly. And those are all the right markings for it. I'm gonna do my fib zone a little bit different. I'm not gonna use my automated. And that makes total sense. Why have bigger swings? Okay. Now the question is wave 3 done or is wave 3? It's over here. Let's just do that. Instead of guessing, let's just look at some measurements. Okay, so 1.618 wasn't it. 1921 is the next level, which is right over here. Where did you land so far? I think you're at you're close to 2.4. Yeah, 2.313. Take that 618 off. Okay. Did not see that one coming. That would invalidate my bullish count. And it forces my hand to look at bearish count. So that's super flat, and that keeps us inside the channel. Maybe we get a small little break out of this trend right here, but we're still confined inside of this channel. And this may take a little bit longer. How do I get over there if I'm going to stay inside of this channel? I'm trying to look at this area over here. Like, how do I get here if I'm in that channel? Only way I see that possible is if we have a false breakout, still retesting these bearish levels. Let's say it's still flat, and then we come back and just kind of ride the channel down. That wave 5 looks way more intense, and that's too high. I don't know why I went that high. So I need to get to here. I'm going to stay confined inside this channel. But I had to have a date over here. I think my fib zone's not going to be accurate. Let me change that around. Let's use the most recent swings. Okay, so that kind of makes sense here because you have compression, and then you have compression, and then it expands here inside this area. It still puts me in the same ridiculous area. It still puts me here. So maybe I go deeper than 1.272. And the only way that works is if wave 3 is not done, wave 3 comes to here. Most likely goes sideways. Get here and then goes sideways for a little while. That's what I think it would look like. It could very well reject here, so I would look to see here because that's going to be the first level it needs to like tap into. Still an upward trend though. Still have a bullish channel that's forming. Inside of it, you have a bearish channel that's created here. So this is still bullish retest. It's the most plausible area. If it goes, I'll post it in the active trade section, but I just posted inside of the live stream playback section just so you guys have the map, kind of what I'm looking at. It's lagging a little bit, yeah. It dropped some frames. Maybe it'll pick back up. It's not lagging as hard as it was. All right. So it's good absorption. Let's take these bars off real quick. So I want to look at that. I want to study this candle. It's a decent candle, man. It's a decent candle. Did I pick up anything yet on this? Nope. I don't know why I didn't. That's dumb. You should have picked up those pivots. You'll probably pick up those pivots later once it actually prints a pivot. All right. Decent break of structure. Good wave 3. Now what we're really looking for here, because I mean, I could look at that as well too. I'm trying to see if I have another diving board here. Not really, because I needed a spring and I really don't have a spring here. I mean, I got the bottom part, but I don't have a spring. See, what I'm looking for when I'm looking for diving boards, I'm looking for, you know, the contraction that's in here, and then you have a spring up, and then you have your plunge, but we didn't get that. We basically got a continuation pattern. We got a bearish continuation pattern. That's basically what we got there. And did it go to its full measured move? Let's measure that real quick. From the breakout point? Sure the F did. Actually, I can move that down a little bit. Boop. Can't make that stuff up. All right, so now that we had that continuation, now we need to see recovery. So I think it's going to be, I think we're going to see some sideways. We'll probably come back and fill in some of this wick over here. Let's take a look and see what kind of demand zones we have over here. Now, obviously, we're looking at the bodies, but we had liquidity that pushed lower. So I'm going to measure from the body to the wick. I'm going to drag you over. And what I'm looking for is seeing what occurred here in this area. Just looking at past data. I'm gonna take this off because that's annoying right now. Absolutely nothing. Nothing of real relevance. You know, you have some support areas, but this is a support resistance area that just gets flipped on both sides. You know, we get through this area right over here, then we push up, we come back down, fight it, push down, fight it, push up, fight it, sideways, sideways, dump into it, reclaim, move higher, lose it again, come down, fight for it again, push up. I mean, this is exhausting. So there's a lot going on here in this area. I know that's ugly, but you get the idea. So this is, from a trading perspective, this is like the war zone. Like, this is where the battle is at. For both sides. For both sides. Right, this is the area that they're fighting for to reclaim or to dominate. Obviously, bears want to dominate this area. Bulls are just trying to reclaim this area. I feel bad for bulls. I mean, it's just like, can we get a break? Can we get a pause? Can we get a timeout? Can we get a timeout? All right, more charts. Let's do a bloodbath on that. And they're stacking all the orders. Woo! Man, they're just stacking. They're just waiting. They're just waiting. Good golly, Miss Molly. Look at these guys. These guys are just stacking way down here. Holy cow. They're stacking all the way down to 1400s. Big clusters here inside this area. And next cluster, 2170. Why do you guys have 2170? What do you have at 2032? Can we talk about that area first? Nothing. Not enough orders stacked in that area yet. There's some that are stacked in that area. 2032, 2056, which I'm totally down if it invalidates that wave count. Bro, you gotta be... You have to be a... 1, 2, 3... You gotta be a 4. You gotta be 4. Gotta be 4. But no, you've already breached that, so... I can't get that out of that. Can't get it out of that. The only way I can do it is from here. 1, 2, and then that's my 3, and then... Still can't do it from there either. I can't get any bullish count out of it. They're all invalidated. They've all breached the highs. The only way possible is maybe looking at this and doing a new wave count from here. And then this was essentially, this was 2. But that puts 3 like in casa carajo. I'll measure that out properly. Let's look at a bullish scenario Let's go ahead and hide this for right now. And it's the only way I can get that. And it feels forced. You know what? Before I do all that, let me do this first. Let's do this. Let's do this the proper way. Let's look at it from... We already know we retraced like 90% of this. We didn't retrace 100, but we retraced 90. The invalidation would fall underneath this pivot point right here. So let's go here. Let's flip that over. We already know it's none of these garbage. And it's like 94%, something ridiculous. 98%. Just shy of that. Let's drag that over so we can actually see if I can line that up. Alright, so it's a little bit higher. $95.8. So basically 96% of it retraced. Okay. That's one way. And we're inside of this rectangle bottom. That's what's difficult to sit there and lean and hang your hat on and say, yeah, we're going to wave 3. We're going to, you know, it's just complex. So I'm just going to work with the probabilities and just look at the math for these. Let's make sure we have a wave 3 on here. Okay. Okay, so I want to layer this on and look at invalidation real quick. We don't need the channel. You're just for reference. And I don't need the fib right now. Again, you're just for reference. And I'm going to take these off just because they're in the way. Alright, so what invalidates me here? 2098 is when I start encroaching into invalidation for this. If I start closing above 2098. Well, how do I get there? I have a fair value gap that sits inside that zone. Right now. You can see it right here. Let's look at liquidity as well too. Do I have more to the downside? I think I have a hot pocket here. Yeah, that's where that hot pocket's at. And I have thin orders up to the upside, so my probability leans more towards going more down. How does that narrative change? The narrative changes if I clear the imbalance here on 34 minute. Let me go to a higher time frame real quick. And still liquidity down there. It's pretty thin right here. There's a little bit that sits here with an imbalance that sits here. But that's not where the map is designed from. Alright. So I know where my hot pocket's at. And I can see where my fair value gap is at. My invalidation, I need to cross over here. How does that line up with the bat? And that lines up with where the bat is at. That's wave B. Got it. Okay. So there's more confluence at a wave B where it's going to be a do or die to invalidate the bearish count. And then I have the fair value gap that sits right here. I'll mark that off for us just so we have it. I'm going to include you in the bullish count. And then I'm going to paint you red. And you're going to be my invalidation for the bearish count. Not just testing it, not just touching the line, but reclaiming that area. So first hurdle. So we see this, you know, we get into here and whatever, we're kind of farting around, but we can't break above here. You know, we start rejecting here. That means we've cleared all this imbalance. Then our probabilities of coming right back down are pretty high. And I think we have a fib level that sits. Yeah, see, it sits right over here. That lines up with that count. So the only way that this starts to get invalidated is if I can push out of that. If we can push out of that, it still leaves this on the table here. Maybe we see rejection. If we start bouncing off of this fair value gap, it's going to flip it into support, so it's going to be inverted. Then the probabilities of the bearish count being invalidated start to grow, because once we start getting closes above here and reclaiming this area inside this zone, you know, I don't know how that's going to look, but let's just make the assumption it does something like that. That opens the door for a move like that. So just kind of simplifying it, this area right here, actually, you know what, I like that thing, it's fine, we'll leave that. That's the key area right now. That's really what we need to see. Either reject it or taken for liquidity. Orders that are sitting there that want to start shorting it, and I think we can start looking at some orders. Tape surf, what area is that? I appreciate that, Elijah. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you. What level is that? 2032. So I have very thin orders that sit there right now. We have some orders at 2027. And it's growing. Slowly it's growing. I mean, they're spoofing it. Like they're adding and then they're removing and they're adding and they're removing. So this is starting to become like an area of interest. And what was it, 2027? And then let's look at where this fixed value range is at. Look at that. So the bottom of that bar is 2029, but the real shelf is at 2061, which is right above here. So they would have to reclaim that, and then the next bar, because then you'd have a space in between. The next bar is 2120, which would invalidate that. Yeah, so I'm gonna stick with that idea. This is going to be the trigger. So I would even make my stop loss on this tighter, to be honest with you. I'd make it tighter. Because if we push out of that and then we start to reclaim that, then we have higher probabilities, and then my next short idea would come from up here. I'm not going to leave it on the chart. I'm just going to give you the idea. It would come from here. This would be, if I'm bearish, this would be like my do or die area. And then I'm looking for, you know, a massive flush down to the downside. But this would be my do or die area from a bearish count or bearish perspective. I think this is going to be the middle of the ground area. I feel like just looking at these orders that are starting to step in, or at least starting to set their limits, 2027, yeah, but see, now they've reduced it. It was 13.4 just a moment ago, and it keeps fluctuating between 13K to like 2.8K. And if we look here on this fixed value range profile, the fixed volume, excuse me, profile, we have 2060 as a block. There's 178,000 orders that are sitting right there, 174,000, so it's almost like an even area. And like I said, that's 2059. That puts us at 0.5 in that area. Because all of these areas, let's lock that up and let's minimize that. Let's get rid of that for right now. Let's get rid of this for right now, because you guys already know what the position looks like. So like all of these right over here, these levels are bearish retests. I mean, it starts right here. I mean, it can get super bearish here now and just say, yeah, we're going to go lower. We're not going to give you the 2000s back. And that would just tap into a very small, minuscule amount of that fair value gap, just clearing just a very small amount of it. And that's super bearish. Getting to this area right over here, this is where they really need to start picking up defense and saying, hey, you know, we want lower. We want sub 1900. We need to defend this area pretty aggressively. And if we have a good amount of short orders that step in, whether that be retail or what have you, and then we have institutional money that steps in and just kind of does the opposite, kind of like what we saw on that liquidity trend line that I was mapping out for you guys earlier. You know, everyone was just setting their limit orders. You know, I'm going to buy this trend line, and then you see a big spike. That's, you can tell institutional money stepped in and then flushed the market down. We can see the opposite getting into this upper level over here, where you have a bunch of individuals that are trying to short that area. And mind you, I did point out that there could be a short over here, so I'm not immune to that. I'm setting up the probability, saying that it could be short there. Yes, I could be in that liquidity pool myself. That's why I set my stop loss pretty tight on that. But I'll have the long to protect it in the event that we do move higher. If we do start to move down lower, then I'll start stripping my long and then building the short in that area. But just point being is, we could see a flush in a squeeze, if you will, into these levels right over here. And if it continues to squeeze, then the bearish count is going to be invalidated. Then we're going to go higher, and then that's what makes the bullish count become more relevant. Like we'll see a pretty intense squeeze overall. Pretty intense squeeze. 1.618 area puts us at a very short wave 3. And then we have all the way up to 2578. I don't think we'll get to 2578. I would love it. Don't get me wrong. I would love for us to get to 2578. That would be great. Perfect. But I think 2336, I think there's going to be a lot of turbulence inside of that area. So hopefully all of that makes sense to you guys. But that's really like me peeling back my mind and going, this is what I'm looking at. This is how I'm going to be structuring things. And so for anybody thinking, you know, just because I hear myself out loud going through this isn't about changing narratives or changing bias. It's really working with what you have. We're inside of this rectangle bottom